How's the tour going so far?
Better than expected, actually. Very, somehow it turned into this like full-length professional show. I don't really know how it happened. It's like this, we just kept refining things and all of a sudden it clicked really well.
Was it not quite as like professional and big?
Well,
before,
it just felt like it needed some work after the first show in Japan, and so they just got to work on it, you know. And now it's like every night's been amazing. It really has been. Like probably the best one I can remember.
Before this, what was like the best one that you could remember?
Well, I remember our Enlightenment tour was really cool. And it was fun to go on that Foozer tour.
Yeah.
But probably the most like emotional thing was like in the summer of 2000 on the Warped tour. It's like, it's not like the shows were like technically great, but the emotion was so high. Like coming back and everything. Before that, I really didn't remember very well.
From set lists I've seen, like for the shows so far and bootlegs, it's more like, seems more like the hits than just like regular album tracks. Was that like a conscious decision by the band, or is it just sort of the way it goes with, you know, you already have 6 albums out and you need to please the crowd?
I don't know the answer, but I mean, in my opinion, I think you have to please the crowd in places that, you know, seat 5,000 to 20,000 people. It's like there's no delving into like 10 unknown tracks in a row on that set. It just doesn't happen. I mean, if it does, it's good for you, but I mean, maybe if we did like, you know, 5 more months of touring, it would start getting more and more abstract like that. But coming out of the gate, I don't think you can really do that. It's just you gotta hit people over the head, I think. You know? I mean, that's my opinion. But plus, I mean, there's some cool tracks mixed in that are pretty obscure, you know. And it's cool how many people do know songs like Suzanne. It's pretty neat. Yeah.
Who wanted to bring Suzanne back?
I don't know.
Really?
I wasn't present at the conversation, you know. I assume that somebody suggested it, possibly Brian, since he's sort of singing lead on it. I don't know though. I don't really know. I wasn't there that day.
Any songs you'd like to see added to the set list right now, or?
Personal preference. I had a list of like maybe 10 songs, a couple from almost every album that I thought would be good additions, but at that point the show would start to get like 2 or 3 hours and they just don't play that long. So they'd have to swap some out if they wanted to add those, you know. But you know, there's great songs that aren't in the set list right now that they could put in. It's just a matter of, I mean, at this point it's like it's getting close to a 2-hour set, and it's pretty tiring after a while.
What's your typical day like on tour for Karl?
Very busy this tour. We usually get into a gig around anywhere between 1:30 and 3, and I set up my computer and all my stuff, and I'm usually working on getting yesterday's news finished because there's no time to do it at the end of the show. And then there's other projects going on, like I'm usually editing some kind of a video thing. There's projects I cannot name going on, and between all that, between then and about 6, it's just like jamming on stuff like that. And at some point around 6 or 7, you got to go eat in the catering area. That's fun because usually it's pretty good. And then the show starts. The first band goes on around 7:30, and at that point I'm still working, but at some point I got to. Sometime I put up a tripod somewhere to film. Make sure all my batteries are charged. Just like, you know, stupid things you got to do to make sure that when the show starts, you're ready. And usually we don't get a set list till like right last minute, because the band doesn't decide if they're going to change anything till last minute. And at that point, you plot out what you're going to do during the show. And since I'm involved in the show a couple times, I actually have to like plan out when I'm going to walk where. Like, okay, take pictures here at this point. Then I gotta go back to the office, put the camera down, walk back to the stage, get ready. All right, go on for that, come back up. Like, it's, you know, if you don't, you forget something. And next thing you're like, I gotta be, you know. So, and then show's usually over like 11:30 or something like that, and then it's time for more food. usually we order food before the show and they deliver it right at the end, so you can get some food at that point. And then you kind of got to pack up and get on the bus and go, depending on what's going on the next day. Even if the next day's a day off, they like to drive and get it over with, and then you get to the city and you have the day off in the city. So it's very busy.
What about like if you're with the band and they're in the studio? What's your day like then?
It's a bit more freeform because I don't really have set tasks there. I mean, sometimes there's conversations and I'll put in my 2 cents about what's, something like that sound-wise, but often I'm just snapping pictures or whatever. Just hanging out, really. It's a lot less intensive.
Not too long ago, somebody sold the band's like Sega Genesis from the 95 tour.
Yes.
Who had the high score on NHL 95, or like who was the best?
Wilson. Yeah. He would get so mad if he couldn't get, I can't remember I don't even remember how it worked, but he'd have whole seasons where he'd like kill everybody. But whenever it didn't work out his way, he'd get so mad. He'd punch the machine like really hard.
Yeah. So now that they don't have the Sega Genesis, what do they do to keep themselves busy?
Well, 2 of them have kids on the tour right now, so that's pretty much occupying Pat and Rivers a lot of the time. I don't know what Brian does. Honestly, he just disappears, comes back later. Scott, he had his wife on tour, but not right now, and he kind of occupies himself with he has a PlayStation 3, I think, in the back of the bus, but I don't see much of him when he's doing that. He just gets lost in his world. I don't even know what game he's into right now. Personally, I don't even have time to read or watch a movie or anything. Like, I'm either sleeping or working on my computer.